Two, one. Hey, everybody, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I'm your host, Zanman Shane Sabuni, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff. And this week we're here to talk about something we don't usually cover, Jeff, anymore. But this was the best takeover I've seen in like a year and a half, at least.
Oh, at least. At
I mean,
least.
this was back to what takeovers used to be. Where it was, wall to wall great matches.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look back at it, the only match that wasn't great but was still really, really good was that opening women's tag match.
Yeah, it
Um,
was.
other than that, every match, I mean, Jesus Christ, that Gargano Kushida match, that's one that's gonna go up. That could be a match of the year already. Um, and then of course Pete Dunne and Finn Balor was another just top notch. Loved every second of it. Um, the only negative I have about that match is I think when the bitter end happened, it should have been the ending.
You
Um,
think Pete Dunne should have walked away with the championship?
I or they should have done better with the kick out. It just wasn't sitting right with me that after that kind of beating, that Finn Balor um, could kick out so easily from the bitter end when he could barely stand 5 seconds before that.
Yeah, they've really treated the bitter end very oddly the last few years, where where it's basically, it looks like such a devastating finisher, and it was for his 24-month title reign, but now it's almost like his finisher is literally like he sits on the guy's chest and snaps their fingers, you
Right.
know, and so that bitter end, not finishing people off is not the shock that it used to be. Just like after a time, the FU wasn't, people kicking out of it wasn't a shock anymore.
Right. So, I mean, I just think that maybe instead of doing the bitter end, they should have done something else.
Yeah.
I felt like that was, or they should have maybe slowed it down a bit, maybe taken, not gotten right into the cover. Maybe after he hit it, he laid there for a few seconds before he went for the cover. But I think hitting the bitter end and then just right into the cover and then having Finn Balor kick out of it was was a mistake, simply because it just they were killing each other. I mean, right before he hit that bitter end, like I said, Finn Balor couldn't even stand. And the
Right.
kick
and
out of
and
it so quickly was kind of a letdown.
yeah, and that moment at at the end of the match where he's pointing, where he's double doing his double point, but he can't even bend his fingers to point. He's
Right.
just pointing his knuckles. That was just a moment right
That
there.
yeah, that was just
Uh,
really good storytelling. I loved how, I mean, did Pete Dunne let go of his wrist at all throughout the entire match?
it doesn't feel like it,
I
does it?
mean, it's like every time he hit a move, they'd be laying there and oh, Pete's got a hand of his or hold of his wrist. It was just,
Yeah,
it was such a great match. And I
it
can't
was.
say
It
more
was.
about that Kushida Gargano match. That was insane.
Yeah, and I read people like ranting on Twitter about, or raving on Twitter about the Dunn and Balor match, and no disrespect to that match at all. It was great, but to me, the match of the night, and to this point, maybe the match of the year so far, is Gargano versus Kushida. I mean, that match was absolutely flawless, and they were hurting each other's arms and legs, and they were battling back and forth. There wasn't a single glitch in the entire match. It was just, and you could feel the ow, Rhaegar. You could feel the entire you bit me in the pinky. You could feel like the entire, the emotion going on. I mean, and it just fit with the story they had going on with each other, and it was just, I mean, the ending was great. I mean, that match to me is just absolutely a perfect match.
Yeah, it really was. And again, Johnny Wrestling showing up at Takeover
Yeah,
and stealing the show. When was the last time a Johnny Gargano match wasn't one of the best matches on a Takeover?
yeah, very true.
It's just
Well, that 2 out of 3 match against Adam Cole.
well, see, and I love that one. To me, that was great. I loved that
No,
match.
no, no, no. No, you didn't.
I loved all the Adam Cole matches or Gargano matches.
Wait, you liked the Three Stages of Hell match?
I
I thought you
I
hated
can't
it.
remember. I
Okay.
think if I hated it, it was because it was a three stages of hell match, and I hate those style matches.
Okay.
Um, I I think that might have been my least favorite of the three.
Okay, I thought you and I both thought it was absolutely horrible.
Oh no,
So
no. In fact, that was my one of my feuds of last year, and all of their matches were great to a point. I think
okay,
it might have been the stipulation, if anything, I hated because I hate those style matches. I've always hated the three stages of hell.
yeah, and then we also had that incredible men's tag for the Dusty Classic
Yeah. Wow.
final, and you said to me on Wednesday that or maybe it was on Friday that whenever you watched it that the Bucks versus PMP was the most entertaining you've been by a tag match in a long time, and I felt like
This
and
year.
and I and I felt like it didn't hold a candle to the MSK um versus Young Veterans match.
I mean, I thought that match was good, but just everything with the Bucks match on Wednesday, I thought was I, and what I said was it's the most entertained I've been by a tag team match this year. So we're counting what about 7 weeks into the year. And I didn't say it was the best match of the year,
I
best
know.
tag
Oh,
team.
I
It
know.
was
Oh, I
just
oh
the most
I know you didn't.
entertained I've been. Because there was so
Well,
much stuff going on where I feel like the MSK GYV match was better, technically better. It was a much, much better match. I was just really entertained by FTR versus the Bucks.
PMP versus the Bucks.
Yeah,
But
PMP.
but but yeah, I to me that match just felt like a bunch of YouTube highlights. I didn't even feel like a match to me. So
Well, yeah, and that's
I did so I did
sorry, go ahead.
so I didn't feel the same way.
And well,
It just it wasn't it wasn't the kind of match that I enjoy.
that was where the entertainment came in. Because it was just a YouTube match. It was trying to get as many things in as we can possibly get into a match. That's where the entertainment value came in. I'm not saying it was a great match by any means. Probably won't be match of the year. I'm just saying that so far, start to bell to bell, it was the most entertained I've been in a complete tag match.
And the ending of that match was completely stupid.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna say it
Now, no-
wasn't.
now we did the wrong team win, in my opinion, but also the just that PNP would have been that stupid.
Right. Yeah, and that goes back to when FTR lost the belts. Just that one out of place moment where it's like, okay, this group does not do 450 splashes. Why is he crawling enough
Exactly.
to do it? It
Right.
was I got that same feeling from the ending too. It was just the reason I said that is because it was entertaining. There were a lot of like, oh yeah, that's a great move. Oh, that was fun. Oh, where MSK versus GYV was a much, much better match, drama wise, storytelling wise, just everything involved with it.
I mean, if you're gonna like say it was entertaining like in the way that like an indie an indie flip style match is entertaining, then yes, it was. I
Rick
just it just to me was not what I would expect from those two teams.
Ricochet versus Osprey. That's
Yeah,
what I'm gonna say. It wasn't a great match where it's gonna go down as one of the greatest matches of all time. It wasn't anything like that, but it was a flip fest that had me entertained the whole time.
yeah, and probably I would have been more entertained than I was if I was watching it the way you were instead of having a seven commercial break during the middle of it.
Oh yeah,
So.
yeah,
You know,
that's
if I had the picture in picture and I was able to actually see everything that was going on, I probably would feel differently than I do.
yeah,
I,
possibly.
I I think it's really dumb that on the app on NXT and then also on the app for TNT's Dynamite they don't show the picture in picture stuff. You just totally miss what was going on in that action.
That's one thing I'll give Hulu is that they do even on but then again, Hulu also puts in commercial breaks too, which is one thing. If I'm paying $70 a month for their service, I would like to be able to, when I'm watching on the DVR function, to skip through commercials.
You
Um,
don't
but
have a commercial free because you're DVRing it. Never mind. I was going to say usually Hulu has a commercial free option, but I suppose you
they
can't.
do for their streaming service, just for the streaming stuff, but not for the live TV.
Okay.
And the live TV stuff, there's certain times that I can skip a couple of commercials, but they have to throw in once per hour a 2.5 minute ad break that you cannot skip through.
Yeah, it's probably something they have with their contract. They probably can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been a Hulu trope. They've always had ads in their shows.
Right.
Um, but that being said, it's still, I still do get the picture in picture.
Yeah, and then that women's triple threat was excellent as well. I mean, just and the way it ended with Io Shirai hitting her moon over moonsault and pinning Martinez, who was just a phenomenal wrestler, by the way. Mercedes Martinez is just great.
Yeah,
But getting the pin over Martinez, and then it leaves Toni Storm as the top contender for her championship, as she should be.
the only thing I didn't like about it was the fact that Io Shirai was completely taken out. And when she was completely taken out and it was just Storm and Martinez, I was like, yeah, Io Shirai is going to come in, hit this big spot at the end and win it. And that's what she did. She just laid on the floor for the rest of the match and then got up and hit her one big spot and won the match. Um,
Yes, but the other thing about Io Shirai is that Evil is a very lucky man.
yes, 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 he is. Um, and you'd mentioned to me one time, and it's Tom Phillips that does the play-by-play for them, right? For
No, Vic
NXT.
Joseph.
Okay, he's horrible. He's not Mauro Ranallo horrible, but he does not have a command of the English language.
No, he doesn't,
It,
and that what bugs me is, it can be perfectly like flying along, Beth has gotten a lot better, and although she says like, in this moment way too many
oh
times,
yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah.
but she's gotten a lot better on commentary. Wade Barrett is just absolutely sensational on commentary, and Vic's even good a lot of the time, but then he'll just say a sentence that you're like, wait, was
That
that English?
yeah, and he did it. And the reason I'm bringing it up is he did it during this triple threat women's match. At the end of the match, he was talking about something about how people going to the top rope and all this stuff, and the phrase was, but she or but she doesn't have a problem with that. She just does it. Should have been the sentence. And he said, she doesn't have a problem with that. She just do. And I'm like, I literally, I had to rewind it. I'm like, did I really just hear him say that?
Yeah.
It was,
Well,
and then I noticed it a few more times during the night too, where he just was like, he would replace words with words that just were not part of the English, or that were part of the English language, but that kind of like, where we live up in northern Minnesota. One thing that people say a lot, and it drives me insane, is I seen that. Yeah, I seen that. No, you saw that.
hmm
Not you seen that, you saw that.
yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, really? Use proper English, please.
Yeah, and one thing that he says quite often is he'll say like something like both of these women hate each other. Well, if you're saying the women hate each other, you don't need to say both in there because that's already implied.
Right,
If you say you can't say both these women. You wouldn't say that this woman hates each other.
right. Yeah, but
So
he definitely does
yeah,
struggle with command of the English language.
yeah,
That was definitely, and you'd mentioned that to me before, but I finally noticed it in Takeover, probably because it's the first full show I've watched in a long time.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that like I said, the thing with him is that, he could be flying along doing a really nice job, and then he just says something. You're like, what?
Right. Yeah. And it's just like, hold up. Like I said, that one I had to rewind it a couple of different times to make sure I heard it right. But yeah, yeah, he's definitely a treat to listen to. That's for sure.
I did like that exchange. I can't remember if it was on Takeover or if it was on. No, it was on Takeover. I'm sorry. No, it was not. It was on NXT. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it was on NXT where they were talking, where Johnny had that match, and he's like he's gonna, or no, it was Kushida had a match. He's gonna break his arm just like he broke Gargano's. And Vic's like, he might break his arm, but he did not break Gargano's. That was wonderful.
There was one
Because
segment,
that's been a running thing for a couple of weeks because Gargano showed up on the previous week's NXT with an X-ray that was clearly of somebody else's arm and clearly on the opposite arm of the one he was saying was broken.
right? Well, and I maybe I don't know the whole wheelchair storyline, but that was another one-liner that kind of threw me off, where he said he's going to break his arm and put him back in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think that was Wade Barrett that said that.
Yeah, I think that was Barrett making a rare misstep, but usually Barrett is just gold.
Yeah, he's really good. And of course, we had the debut of I mean L.A. Park.
Yes,
I just wish wrestlers could keep their
LA
names.
LA LA Knight.
L.A. Knight, yeah. I just
Well,
wish,
but the thing is that it's nice that he's always had the Eli Drake, and now he's got the L.A. Knight. So it's not it's actually a really nice way of doing it where he still gets to keep his mannerisms and the vocal sounds of it. It's just slightly different.
yeah, I know. I there's times where I look at a debuting character like that and I'm like, why? Why? He made a name for himself as Eli Drake. Why not just let him keep Eli Drake as his name? Clearly, he was able to take it out of Impact and into NWA, and nobody had a problem with it. So it's something that he could have. It's just they want to build the star on their own on as a WWE property and not as somebody that came in from somewhere else.
I think it just depends on whether WWE really feels there's name value in keeping their name because they've let people do it. They let Ricochet do it. They let Adam Cole do it. AJ Styles, Kyle O'Reilly. They probably just didn't feel like Eli Drake had the name value, so it didn't hurt anything to have him change his name.
Yeah, I know AJ
And
Styles.
really, L.A. Knight is a better name than Eli Drake.
Yeah, I guess, but I know AJ Styles came out in an interview and they talked about his ability to keep his name, and up until hours before the Royal Rumble debut, they actually Hunter was saying, "I'm not sure if you're going to get to keep this name or not."
Really,
Yeah, and then
what would they have called him?
I don't know.
Okay,
He said they didn't really kick around names. They were just, maybe it wasn't hours. It might have been days before because they had the video with his name on it and everything. But um, like he and Hunter were actually in discussions about that, about if he's going to have the ability to keep his name or if they're going to have to change it.
interesting. Yeah, but
So
it can be, but like guys, I don't think Adam Cole is Adam Cole's real name, is it? And I don't
no,
think
it's
Kyle
not.
O'Reilly's is either. So I mean, it's they've let and Bobby Fish, they've let plenty of guys come in and keep their names.
Right.
So I mean, it's so I don't think that it's something where they went and said, yeah, we're just going to change his name to change his name. I think they really felt like L.A. Knight's a better name, and Eli Drake doesn't have the same name value that these guys that were and had national exposure in ROH would have. ROH had because ROH is more. I mean, even though Impact has a national contract, ROH people have higher name value among the wrestling fans than people in Impact do.
And
So
wasn't Eli Drake gone before they got their Access national television deal anyway?
I think so, or is that
Um,
very shortly after?
I,
And he appeared like twice on Ring of Honor.
right. Adam Cole's name is Austin Jenkins, is his real name.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I didn't think it was his real name. So, speaking of Adam Cole, you and I had talked about last week on the show, and we said, this is the first takeover in 3.5 years that didn't have a member of um, Undisputed Era wrestling on the card at all. I mean,
Right.
not counting NXT UK, but counting just like the regular takeover events. It was the first one in 3.5 years that there was not a member of the Undisputed Era scheduled for at least a match.
Right.
And they still found a way for the Undisputed Era to be the talk of the show after it was over.
Yeah, and I mean, there's whole things about this that the swerve was great. I'm a little bummed about the Yui breakup and all, but there's certain things about it I just don't understand. For starters, the Undisputed Era became faces because they were. It all started with Kyle O'Reilly going up against the heel Finn Balor. And then, of course, Pat McAfee and all that. Um, but it really started with O'Reilly going up against Balor. So for the fact that they came out and this was an actual heel turn by him kicking Balor confuses me. The other thing is the Undisputed Era has always been all about the gold, all about the gold, all about the gold. And just because Kyle O'Reilly has this um, respect for Finn Balor shouldn't change the fact that, you know, that they're still all about the gold. And here he is, Adam Cole kicking the guy who's actually technically a heel in the face. Any of that make any sense?
Um, Over the last several weeks, Balor has, and I would say even in the O'Reilly match versus Balor, he's not really been the heel. He's been more of a tweener type character heading towards an aggressive babyface role. You know, especially with Pat McAfee's former goons and Pete Dunne, and Lorcan and Birch attacking Balor and then attacking O'Reilly. So I mean, it's been kind of a thing where the feud of the Undisputed Era versus McAfee's group, and the fact that Pete Dunne has been gunning for that championship and faced O'Reilly in the number not faced O'Reilly in a ladder match to decide who was going to have the top spot in, or you know, have the advantage in War Games, and then faced him again to be the number one contender for um, New Year's Evil. And then that kind of carried over where, you know, after Balor beat O'Reilly, he's like, you know, what's next? And then Duncan was, you know, what's next? I'm next. And you know, it kind of turned into a big thing where O'Reilly and Balor both got beat down by Pete Dunne, Danny Burch, and Oni Lorcan. And then the next week Finn came out and he said, um, he looked at O'Reilly when O'Reilly was there with Strong and Cole, and he looked at him and he goes, um, so I got a match. You in? And you know, and you know, O'Reilly's like, yeah, I'm in. And then, you know, next week he's like, you know, can I trust you? Can I trust you? You know, and then they actually ended up beating the tag champs. So I mean, it's kind of a thing where it's built up over time, where Balor is, you know, has been more of a babyface leaning tweener because he's been facing off against the heel stable,
Right.
and then O'Reilly, and then, you know, joining in with O'Reilly, who again, you know, kind of became a babyface over that time and gained a lot of respect from the crowd. You know, you know, after Cole beat, um, after Cole and Balor had that one off to decide who won that 4-man Iron Man match. O'Reilly won the gauntlet to decide who was going to be his first challenger. So O'Reilly's really been building up for the last like 7 months or 8 months now
Right.
to be to being like one of the top guys on the brand, which you know, I love personally. And then and now this just got to the point now where basically, you know, that the stable that like barely turned face by facing off against McAfee's stable is now at the point where they were able to kind of turn Balor, and now Cole's kind of turned on both Balor and O'Reilly, and who knows where Strong and Fish are going to fit in here. You know, so I don't have a problem with. I mean, I think it was actually, I think if Cole had super kicked Balor, and then, you know, O'Reilly had been okay with it and they had all left, and maybe it wouldn't be the same thing where Cole was the heel, but he also turned on the Undisputed Era, you know,
Yeah,
or at
when
least
he
Kyle,
kicked
or at
Riley.
least his best friend, who he had said he was supporting. And he had, you know, even a few weeks ago, um, Velveteen Dream had come out and said, well, Adam, since O'Reilly's the one challenging for the championship, I guess we know who really wears the pants in the Undisputed Era. And O'Reilly and Cole kicked him in the face and said, let me tell you something, Dream. There are no leaders in the Undisputed Era, you frickin' moron. And clearly, you know, Cole necessarily didn't necessarily mean that. You know,
Right.
Cole, you know, because Adam Cole, after all was said and done, is still Adam Cole. And Adam
Right. Right.
Cole is always about one thing. That one thing is not the Undisputed Era. That one thing is not NXT. That one thing is Adam Cole. So I think this is Adam Cole showing his true colors. And I really, one thing that I really like about what's happened the last couple of weeks, Jeff, and yeah, there's problems with it. Okay, there definitely are problems with it. Like, I did not like the way NXT opened up, but what I do like is that both when NXT Takeover went off the air and when NXT went off the air, we didn't have Adam Cole standing in the middle of the ring, putting his hands up and saying "Adam Cole, baby."
Right.
because you can see people in the crowd wanting to do it, but he's not doing it, and I really hope he continues to not do it.
And speaking of the opening of NXT, the fact that, I, let's say on Sunday night you'd kicked me in the face and then went home.
Yeah,
I would have been at your doorstep going, "What the fuck, dude? Talk to me. What's happening? What's going on? Why'd you kick me in the face?" I wouldn't wait 3 days to go on live television and then say, "Hey, you're my brother. I need answers."
yeah, I agree.
That was one of those little, like, when it's Monday after a pay-per-view or something and they come out and say you've been ducking me for, the last 24 hours, I need answers. That's one thing. But to wait 3 days and make it sound like you haven't even reached out to him to find out what was going on.
Yeah, I really wish that O'Reilly's had been something like, I've been calling you, I've been gone to your house, you haven't been around. I mean, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, something like that, as opposed to making it, I've been replaying this in my head for the last 3 days and now I need answers. It's like, oh, hell no. If you had been at my house and kicked me in the face, I would have been at your door. I would have followed you home to find out what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I did like you said, but I did like though, like what he said. No matter what you say, I'm probably gonna end up punching you in the face. I thought
Yeah.
that was great. I thought that was great. But yeah, the rest of it, and then the other thing I didn't like was that Balor comes out and like, I don't know, I can trust you. Well, really, motherfucker, he got kicked in the face right after defending you. So
Right.
why would you say you don't know if you can trust him or not?
Yeah, that was a little bit of, I knew I shouldn't have shook your hand, and I don't know if I can trust you. It's like, come on, he literally was defending you and got kicked in the face. What do you mean you can't trust him?
Yeah, that was dumb.
And the
Yeah.
whole Roddy thing, trying to play peacekeeper and all that stuff, and then to have, um, you know, like you said, it's who's going to be with who. Uh, it with Roderick Strong not being attacked at the end, it was all on Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, he didn't even go after Balor, did he?
He kicked it. He got Balor at the end of the show.
Okay, yeah, but the majority of the attack when he came down was against Kyle O'Reilly.
Well, right, because he was trying to suck everybody in.
Right.
That was the thing. Is like, if I go kick O'Reilly now, then I can get Balor when his guard's down.
Yeah, but but for him to not attack Roddy, it leads me to believe that they're still going to be together. It'll just be without, and then who knows what's going to happen with when Bobby Fish comes back as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting because Fish and O'Reilly have always been partners.
Hmm.
And the it's hard to tell because Strong was still trying to win that match, and Strong was still on an all-out assault against Lorcan and Birch, even though Cole had come down there and attacked O'Reilly. So if Strong is still with Cole, it isn't. Or if he's going to end up with Cole, it's not that he's still like right now trying to keep the peace. I think
Right.
and Roddy Strong as a peacemaker is kind of an odd situation.
Yeah, it really is. But I don't know. I'm hoping that what happens is that they all come around and UE just turns heel the whole group again. And they can explain it where you know Kyle O'Reilly lost his way and just had to get um, back into the fold, and this was his brother teaching him they need to get back into the fold. I don't know. There's certain groups that never should be broken up. Four Horsemen, Undisputed Era, and DX. Those were groups that, and even when DX got broken up in the 2000s, it was still just kind of like, ugh, why?
What more is there for Undisputed Era to do? I mean, what's the point of them not being broken up?
Um,
Because I think this is like the golden ticket for O'Reilly to get to the very top of NXT by having a big feud against Adam Cole.
and possibly,
This is I
but
mean I mean I mean I mean this is the feud that could last the entire year.
at the same time, the Horsemen always had something to do. They had their places. I mean, unless you're, you know, I
Well, the Horsemen
granted
has
they
always
had
had something to do for a few years, but I mean if you really look back at like say like 92 and or I should say like 93 and on, I mean the Horsemen were really kind of in the background of everything.
but here too, I mean, the Horsemen always did have that revolving door. There was always that one spot that was kind of a revolving door. And that could be this with the Undisputed Era too, where UE stays. um, a group. They just got rid of Kyle O'Reilly so that he can go on to do bigger and better things, and then they maybe bring in some new up and coming guy.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't feel like the Undisputed Era is an untouchable force like you do. I mean, I think if the story calls for them to be broken up, they should be broken up, and that's what the story is calling for right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it really calling for them to be broken up or calling for Kyle O'Reilly to go off on his own?
Well, Roderick Strong doesn't seem very happy about what Adam Cole did either. And like you said, we don't know where Bobby Fish is going to fall in, but I mean, it looked like like maybe 7 months ago, or maybe, probably less than that, like 4 months ago, maybe that it was like you had mentioned before, it was going to be like Cole and O'Reilly against Strong and Fish, right?
No, it was it
Because
was
Strong and Fish were still being heelish,
it
and
was
Cole.
it was Cole and Fish versus Strong and Kyle O'Reilly was the reports.
Oh, okay, okay. So and now it looks like it could be like all of them going separate ways, or maybe I mean we'll have to see like where everything hashes out. But I mean I'm really hoping that we're heading towards a WrestleMania match between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, it'd be nice to. I mean, they've had their breakups in the past, and I guess I did see there was one match after their second breakup in Ring of Honor that was kind of a blow off to the feud, but I know that original Future Shock breakup wasn't anything to write home about.
No, it wasn't, but they did do a nice job of revisiting it in like the end of 2016,
Yeah,
where O'Reilly won the title from Cole at Final Battle, and then he ended up losing it like, I don't know, a couple weeks later at Wrestle Kingdom because O'Reilly didn't sign a new contract.
right. So I don't know. Okay, so that's my whole thoughts on this heel turn. Johnny Gargano is becoming a very likable comedy heel. Like I'm enjoying. I wasn't a big fan of his original heel turn where he was trying to be the sinister bitch, but now that he's, you know, leader of the way and has Austin Theory to play off of, he's really a fun comedy heel.
Sinister bitch.
Yeah, I
What,
mean
what does it even mean?
when he first turned heel, he was trying to be kind of menacing and evil, and it didn't fit well with him. I like him more as this cocky comedy heel.
What does the bitch part come from?
I don't. It's just a phrase.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've enjoyed O'Reilly and I've actually got him enjoying everything the way he's doing. I thought I think on Indy Hartwell is a very, I don't know, she seems like very tentative at times, and she's definitely very green. And I don't know, she looks like really awkward. And this is gonna sound really dumb, but she looks really awkward when she's wearing clothes. When she's in her wrestling tights, she looks like a badass.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's interesting to see where that's going. And then of course, Austin Theory. I mean, the reports are that, and no shock that they're planning on skyrocketing him to the moon eventually.
Yeah, I mean that, and he's hysterical, and I love Johnny on commentary saying that Austin was a good guy, just don't show him anything shiny. Um, I thought that was brilliant. I love the fact that when he showed up, they were all celebrating on the stage. It was I'm enjoying the way and everything I've seen from them.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and I like, I told you like about how Johnny and Candace had kind of adopted Indy Hartwell, and now she's indie wrestling.
Yep. Yeah.
And and I love how like Johnny will come out sometimes be like everybody knows, and it was like the opposite of what everybody knows, and it's like maybe like even the opposite of what he had said the week before.
Right.
It was like everybody knows Johnny Gargano loves wheels, and then the next week everybody knows Johnny Gargano hates wheels.
I love the fact that he got all over Vic Joseph too about making a way pun.
Yeah,
You're not allowed to make those puns. Only I can. I thought that was no, it was um what's her name? Beth Phoenix is who he
yeah,
got on about it.
yeah. He is really funny in this role. You know,
I, I
I'm enjoying it.
he's much better. Like he was vanilla babyface, just a great wrestler. His original run when he first turned heel was kind of disheartening, but he's really developed this character, and I really like what he's doing now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like another thing that about that is when or going getting back to the undisputed era discussion just like really briefly, like we never felt like, or a lot of people at least never felt like DYI should ever break up. They seemed like a perfect fit. That they were both such great friends. They would be together forever, right? And then they broke up, and they had a like a year-long feud, and most of the matches were great.
Which is one of
You
the
know,
best feuds of all time. And then both Gargano and Ciampa went their own separate ways and proved that they're both amazing wrestlers.
yep. So I mean, and I don't see why that couldn't happen with this undisputed era stuff between O'Reilly and Cole. You know.
I just I don't know that O'Reilly has the charisma that of a Cole and Gargano or of a Gargano and Ciampa. Like Cole clearly has the charisma, but I don't know that O'Reilly is on that level.
Um,
He's gotten a lot better than his Ring of Honor days, that's for damn sure, but I just don't know that he's on that Ciampa Gargano charisma level.
yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, but I also think that we all have also seen um, the crowd really getting behind him quite a bit too. So I mean, it kind of depends, I think, on what you're looking for, and I think he's I do think he's got some charisma, but but I mean, very few wrestlers have the charisma that Adam Cole has.
He's like he reminds me a lot of a Daniel Bryan. An unbelievable in-ring wrestler just doesn't have that over-the-top charisma. The crowd's going to get behind him because of how great he is in the ring, but he's never going to have that. Even now, Daniel Bryan has, a certain level of charisma, but I wouldn't say he's even on that same level as like an Adam Cole.
Like I said, very few wrestlers have ever
Right.
had the charisma that Adam Cole has, and some for some reason the Ring of Honor stream just stopped. I have no idea why. So
Yeah, mine has been uppity too,
that's weird.
but I think
Okay.
mine's because of the updates I've got to do.
Or I should say the Lords of Pain stream stopped. So sorry guys if you're listening to Lords of Pain, but it's gone now. So
Oh, well,
um, I have no
oh,
idea why that happened.
yeah, who knows? Maybe it'll come back up, but I don't. I think with the last two shows, I mean, the NXT weekly show was not as great as Takeover, but Takeover definitely brought me back in. And then NXT, even watching that weekly show, I might start watching NXT again after this week.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been watching it. I just there's been times I fast forwarded through parts of it, like I had no interest in the women's Dusty Rhodes Classic at all.
Right.
I really feel like I really felt like that was really dumb for them to have that tournament when there wasn't any when there's no NXT Women's Championships, and now we're seeing that I now I do see that they'll be facing off against Baszler and Jax, but still, it felt like a really dumb way to shoehorn in women's tag team wrestling into NXT
Yeah,
to me.
I agree.
But I mean, for the most part, like I really enjoyed the Kushida stuff. I really enjoyed the Gargano stuff. This Tyler Russ guy is growing on me. You know, I really like MSK obviously when they used to be the Rascals. The Undisputed Era has always been up there for me, and of course and then of course Bauer's character turn to me has like just really energized him, and he's become like can't miss. Birch, Lorcan, and Dunn are a really fun trio to watch, and then you've got um, Imperium's coming in, and you've got Grizzled Young Veterans are there now. I mean, there's just so much talent on that brand.
Right.
It's just so fun to watch.
Which I
And
really
and
hope
and uh, and who's the other? Timothy Thatcher. He's been great since he turned heel too.
I really hope that the rumors and the news reports from earlier this week aren't true. Because with that amount of talent and everything, for them to, it was reported by Meltzer, uh, and then also What Culture Wrestling, the salaries that NXT stars are making, and top level NXT stars are only making 150K a year. That's less than a third string quarterback in the NFL.
Well, I mean, you had texted me over that before, and I also like look at that, and I'm like, well, but they're not a touring brand. They only wrestle like maybe one day a week. So I mean, it's sometimes two if they have a takeover or something. But it's not like these guys are going out there and working every day like like wrestlers have in the past. So I mean, I can understand why they're getting what they're getting.
Yes and no. When entry level guys are getting less than 50,000 a year, they're still entertaining us. They're still working, like Undisputed Era, they're working 52 weeks a year. It's not like they're only working 16 weeks. And when the report came out, they were saying that it's always been an issue when you look at sports like the NFL that 45 or 50% of their revenue goes back to player salaries. And then you look at wrestling where under 8% of their revenue goes to the talent. It's just I really hope that that's not true, that that's how little they're making.
Well, it's not any of our business really.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I hate to be callous about it, but I mean they're it's the I mean I guess I never really felt like it should be we should know what people are making anyway. You know,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean
true.
I mean when and I remember like when the first time I saw something about like I think it was Bobby Bonilla got like a 4-year $28 million contract, like wow, that's a lot of money. And then like the next year it was like Barry Bonds got like a 4-year $50 million contract. It's like, well, that's a lot more than Bonilla just got. You know?
Yeah, now it's even more where I think some of the top pitchers in the major leagues are making like $100,000 per pitch.
Yeah.
So it's insanity the amount of money they make. But there's also the merchandising and all that stuff. It's just crazy.
It's just hard for me to believe that those numbers are right when I when you hear things like Adam Cole was offered like the richest contract in ROH history and turned it down, or and then you heard the same thing about Damian Priest before he left, and it's like, but they're only making $150,000 a year on NXT. How does that make sense?
But it would
You
make
know,
sense. It would make sense on why wrestlers are so eager to shave their head and throw on a mask that looks like a thong and go to regular TV. Dominic Dijakovic. Um, that would make sense why they're willing to completely ditch all their morals to go to the main roster because they're going to make a lot more on the main roster.
yeah. And then like the other thing I'd mentioned is that they also get like merchandise and like percentage of like pay-per-view buys and all that kind of stuff too. So I mean it isn't only the weekly salary that they're generating,
Right.
you know. So I don't know. I mean I guess to me it's not that big of a deal.
No, it's not really to me either. I could care less. They're making a lot more than I am. You know, it kind of surprised me because when you think of other sports, you think of other entertainers that are, making millions, and these guys are barely making more than a minimum wage job. Some of these guys. But then again,
Yeah,
too, that's better than $30 a night on the indie scene.
it is. I mean that you also have to look at that perspective as well. And also like how do we know for sure that report is even true? You
Yeah,
know.
that's true.
Yeah.
As far as AEW TV goes, um, did you watch all of Dynamite this week?
I did you?
Yeah, it felt a little weird having Omega challenge for the death match and not having Moxley challenge for it.
Yeah, I understood his reasoning until he said that it was a exploding barbed wire death match. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I mean, because
I mean, I mean,
his
I mean
whole
that
thing was
it doesn't
he's the
it doesn't it
wrestler.
doesn't yeah right it doesn't play to any of his strengths. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he would choose that match.
That seemed really out of place to me. It just really did. Nice to see that we're going to continue the Lucha, or what the hell's their name? Jurassic Express versus FTR feud as well.
And we have a new mask with new horns for. Luchasaurus. So
And
that's good.
I can't wait till next week when Tully and Marco Stunt um, square off in the middle of the ring.
That's that 6 man match, right? You're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, and we saw that that Cody is having that ladder match at Revolution, where the three announced people so far are Cody, Penta El Zero M, um, and Scorpio Sky, and it's gonna be a total of 6 people in the match. I'm like, why? Why can't you just have those three?
Yeah,
Those three would make sense. Why do you have to add three more people into it?
because they
I
did the same. They did a ladder match like that last year too. I can't, but uh,
I know they did, but I'm just like, you don't always have to have 6 people in a ladder match.
no, you don't. But it's I know Cody didn't really have anything to do after Shaq had to pull out, but I don't want Cody in a number one contender match for the TNT title again.
No.
It's a little too soon for that. Um, but I get it. They want to make sure he's on the show. The other thing about the whole Cody thing is like Brandy gets on TV, we're going to do our big reveal now, and then we have to go through that ridiculously long Cody entrance.
Maybe I'm just because the kind of person I am, Jeff. But that kind of stuff like never does anything for me.
No, it
Like
doesn't
it's
for me
like
either.
it's a boy, it's a girl. Well, what are the other fucking options? You
Right.
know what I mean? I mean, if you're like it's a unicorn, then that'd be amazing. Because that isn't something you'd expect. But I mean, finding out it's a boy or a girl, well, those there's a 50-50%, 50-50 chance one way or the other. It's not like that does remind me of a joke I heard like a long time ago where Lisa Marie Presley was pregnant, and the guy on the radio said, if it's a boy, they're going to name it Jermaine. If it's a girl, they're going to call it Janet. If it's anything else, they're going to call it Michael.
Well, the whole reason this like I don't get the whole gender reveal. I don't know why you have to know ahead of time, but the whole reason it all started was because people wanted to be prepared. Then they wanted to, oh, I'm gonna have a boy, so now I know how to decorate the room before the baby comes.
Yep,
And then it kind of went from there to the announce parties, like saying, "Oh, I'm going to tell all my friends what I'm getting, so when they get me baby shower gifts, they get me stuff for the right gender."
yep.
And to me, I'm like you. I never wanted to know until the baby popped out. Um, but I see where it started.
No, I do too. I don't understand the amazement of it being a boy or it being a girl because it's like, what else were you expecting?
Right.
That's part that gets me is it's like they act like so they're so astounded by what it is, and it's like, you only had two options.
It's
How
not like we're
surprised could you?
watching the original V miniseries and have a lizard crawl out.
Yeah, how surprised could you possibly be? It's an egg.
Right? Yeah. And what
And
was the
and
other
yeah,
thing? There was something else that really stuck out about. Oh, Jim Ross. They were talking about the Revolution pay-per-view, and Jim Ross goes, "Well, I think it's March. It's what February 27th or something. March 7th,
March
March
7th, I
9th,
think.
March 9th, because March 7th is the Anyway, whatever the date was, he goes, "Well, I know where I'm going to be March 9th." Well, no shit, dude. You got a job to do. You're going to be there calling the commentary.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of those JR lines where it was like, come on, serious? We all know where you're going to be that night. You're going to be on the microphone.
When JR said Excalibur that he did a great job calling those matches, then Excalibur said, "Oh, thank you, JR. That's a real honor coming from you." Do you think that was actually Excalibur's genuine reaction, or do you think he was kind of like rolling his eyes, like, "Well, thanks, man. I've been doing this for 20 years myself."
Well, I kind of caught that too, and it kind of felt like a tongue in cheek because JR has been really critical of him, especially that one time he got drunk on the air.
Yeah.
So I kind of took it more of like a public statement of, yeah, I do think you do really do a good job type of thing. Um, But yeah, I got that too. It seemed a little bit out there. And personally, I love Excalibur on the mic. I think he gets a little overblown at times, but for the most part, I love the way he knows every move. He reminds me a lot of Mike Tenay.
Yeah, I do really enjoy him on commentary, and really I think that they've blended really well the last few months as a trio. Like I have very little complaint about JR anymore. I have very little complaint about Tony Schiavone anymore. I think they've really done a nice job blending together as an announce team.
Yeah, that I agree with. I agree with fully that.
But I did think that was kind of I did think it was a little tongue in cheek or maybe just like a little bit like eye rolling for Excalibur to when he said that it was an honor because I really didn't. I mean I can understand where it really would be an honor for an announcer, but I didn't know for sure if Excalibur really felt that way or not. Just the way he said it.
It's like I said, I think a lot of it was they probably do have a pretty decent working relationship, but after all the digs that JR has made against him,
Hmm.
it was kind of a way to kind of quell that little whatever it was.
Yeah, and that's good. That's good if that's the case. I mean, I did feel that way as well. That it's yeah, with all the as critical as you've been of him, it's good to and it is even it wasn't even just JR being critical of him at times. There was also times where somebody else would be critical of him, and JR would like laugh at it and be like, yeah,
Right.
it really does feel like he has a lot of disrespect from like Jericho and Don Callis and Shivani and. Shivani not so much, but there's been times Shivani trying to play peacekeeper between the two, but he's had his moments as well.
Well, and then the worst of the bunch was that night he got drunk and really lit into Excalibur on the air.
Yeah.
That was probably the worst of the worst. So it was nice to see him give Excalibur some praise.
Yeah, it was. Um, like I mentioned earlier, I really wish that PNP had won the tag titles.
Hmm.
I would I'm much more invested in um, seeing Ortiz and Santana take on MJF and Jericho than I would have been than I am the Bucks taking on MJF and Jericho, despite the beatdown.
Right.
And then that Matt Hardy segment with Paige was just kind of weird the way that it came off because it's like, so obviously Hardy had already read the contract and had already known what it said because he had whichever member it was of Private Party
Hmm.
in the cat costume, but at the same time it's like why would Paige agree to give up his 2021 first quarter earnings when it had already been stipulated in the contract that Matt Hardy has to. I
Right.
mean, there was no gain for Page agreeing to do that.
Right. It was, unless it was just his manhood, his confidence that no, he knows he can beat Matt Hardy. Um, I I really feel like this is just leading more towards Paige joining the Dark Order.
I think so too, but I'm I'm sad that I feel like Page is going to lose that match to Hardy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if Paige doesn't come into the Dark Order as anything other than the leader, it's a waste for him.
Yeah, but I also know that I want to see Page as leader of a stable either.
No, just another member though is kind of a letdown.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
I
outside of
don't know.
Jonathan Silver, that group really doesn't have anything that's notable.
No, I mean and they really don't feel that they even have a leader anymore. I mean, Uno was kind of doing that role for a while, and then we saw Negative One was out there the other day, like calling the troops in. But there's really not been a true like leader of the stable.
Well,
If what I would really like to see is there for for there to be like a spokesman of the stable or a leader of the stable, but then they just anoint Page as like their like top guy to go after the championships and stuff.
they kind of dispelled with the whole leader thing uh, that week after the tribute show where Evil Uno came out and said, "We're gonna we're just gonna run the Dark Order in the image, in whatever Brody Lee would have wanted."
Hmm.
So at that point, he basically said, "There is no more leader. We're just doing what Brody would have wanted."
And that's good. But I think that's the thing is like, Paige being like this like the thoroughbred star of the stable rather than being like the leader of the stable, I think would work a lot better.
Well, every stable has to have that one guy that you think is going to be a main eventer. And right
Right.
now, outside of John Silver, who's probably their biggest star, there's nobody that is would be realistic, and Silver wouldn't be either in the main event. Page would be.
Agreed. And that's what I was saying is that I think that if that's the case, that works. I just don't think it works for him to like actually like be like the guy out there like calling the shots and that kind of thing.
Right.
Not at this point of his career, at least.
No, no. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that. That's going to be an interesting little swerve to see what happened there. But you're right. It's obvious that Matt did read it because why would Isaiah Cassidy be in the suit?
Yeah, exactly. I, and you're right. I mean, it looks like it's gonna be an enjoyable thing to watch. It's just not something. I'm still like looking at this pay per view, and I'm like, is this really something that I'm gonna spend $50 on? And I really am still like super undecided on it.
As far as the matches go, I can't see Omega losing. I can't see Inner Circle losing. And like you said, the only real thing that might be in doubt would be Page versus Hardy because it doesn't feel like this story is over yet. So it's a little too early for that blow off match.
Well, and it also feels like Hardy's got private party to interfere for him and cost Page the match.
Right.
You know.
And I mean, there's just really not much on this card that I feel like I need to watch for this big surprise.
No, there's not. And I mean, and this and the Sting and Darby versus um Cage and it's Cage and Starks, right?
Yeah.
Match. That's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. But is it something that's really something that I look at and I go, yeah, that's a big money match where I'm gonna pay for it. It's not. It's just I think I appreciate the card they're putting together. I just don't think it feels like a pay-per-view card.
And I get, first of all, the Sting powerbomb spot. He's a 64-year-old man who broke his back because he got powerbombed into a buckle. I get the cringeworthy, like, oh my God, is he okay type of thing. But the way the internet wrestling community was selling it, like it was the most painful thing they've ever seen in their life, I was expecting it to actually look a little more devastating than it actually did.
Yeah, I think Sting did a great job of selling it, but clearly, if Sting couldn't have taken the spot, he wouldn't have taken the spot.
Right,
Or taken the bump,
exactly.
he wouldn't have taken the bump.
Exactly. The way that the inner IWC, like after it happened, I started getting Twitter alerts and, news alerts about Sting taking this nasty power bomb. And then I went and watched it, and it's like, okay, he didn't really, he took like a half a power bomb because Cage didn't let him go until he was, about a foot away from the ground. And then he laid there for a half a second before he started moving his head and everything to let everybody know he was okay.
Yep, and and the whole thing was just dumb. Like, why would Sting throw the bat down when he's against three people? It doesn't
Right.
make any sense.
Oh, he's got to be that badass, remember?
Yeah, and I really expected, that I really expected the other two members of the stable to come down and attack Sting from behind there. Right. So that was a nice surprise that they didn't.
Well, he'd said that
But
they were stuck in Texas.
he did say that, but it's not like a heel's never lied about something like that before.
That's a good point. Especially the week after they drag off his tag team partner in a body bag behind a car.
Right. It felt, it felt like a setup. You know.
It is kind of funny because this is now the second time I've seen the WWE try an angle that was done on AEW TV. Like basically, it was granted it was a lot nastier of a dragging Darby Allin away, but Darby got kidnapped by Team Taz. And then 4 nights later, 3 nights later, Dexter Loomis, for some unknown reason, kidnaps Austin Theory.
Well, he's been after him for quite a while.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. You just haven't been watching.
Is there a reason for it?
Well, how do we know? Because Dexter Loomis doesn't talk.
It's just he
I mean,
just
I mean, I mean, I
decided.
mean, I mean, I'm assuming it's like to lead up to Dexter Loomis challenging Johnny Gargano for the North American Championship.
So basically, it's just Dexter Loomis trying to abduct Austin Theory
So far, yep.
with nothing, no reasoning, nothing, just he's weird, so he's gonna try and steal the funny comedy gate.
Again, Dexter Loomis doesn't talk, so you don't really know why he's doing what he's doing.
Which is why I still don't understand why he was the host of whatever that last show he did was.
New Year's Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But he's been kind of popping up and attacking, or actually was scaring at times and attacking at other times. Austin Theory. That's all.
All
So
right. Well, so
and so
I don't know,
so
dude. I got nothing left.
okay.
Anything else you wanna talk about?
Um, I think we have some upcoming NJPW shows this week, don't we?
I didn't see much. Oh, and I did watch the um, Takahashi versus show. Um, the match itself was fantastic. The aftermath was a letdown. Mean, I don't know. It didn't. Why did Phantasmo? I mean, because he wants a shot at the title. I get that, but he was coming in to give his finishing move, and then Bushi cut him off. There just wasn't the payoff I was expecting. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I mean,
Oh,
I was listening, but I can see where you're coming from with that. Um, I thought there was um a good Road 2 short card. Oh, here we go. So on the last Road 2 show for Castle Attack, which is coming up actually tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sorry, not tomorrow. On Thursday, we've actually got that junior heavyweight tag team title match,
okay.
and then Castle Attack is actually next Saturday and Sunday.
Oh,
That's coming up really quickly here.
all right. And tonight we have Elimination Chamber.
Oh, do we?
Hmm.
Oh, you do.
Well,
I don't think
WB
I do.
fans do. I'm not going to be watching it, but
Um, and let's see. Yeah, but it looks like the last Road 2 show is only in Japanese for some reason, which is weird since considering that Kevin Kelly's over there, you know. But
is he over there? I thought he was still stateside.
nope, he's been in Japan since Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh,
I
all
mean,
right.
it's possible he went back now, but he's been there for the last few shows.
Oh, I didn't know if those were live broadcasts, live
Yeah,
commentary, if they were just putting it up like later in the day.
yeah. So I think we probably will be able to watch night one of Castle Attack before next week's show, but I don't think we'll have time to watch night two.
Okay, that's literally the dumbest thing I've ever said, considering I literally just said he was partners with El Phantasmo and El Phantasmo ran into the ring.
Yep.
So obviously he's still there.
Yeah. No kidding, right? So
All right. Well, guys, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Lots of good stuff up there, and we'd appreciate the, helping us out any way you can. Also, if you're listening here, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell so that you can get access to all of our content when we do it. We do two shows. We've been doing two shows and probably will continue every Sunday.
that's exactly right. And like I said, next week we've got Tom and Jerry coming up. So
Oh boy.
stay tuned for that, guys.
Oh boy.
Anyway, that's all we got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye.